This video is about taking care of your string instrument. And taking care of your string instrument, making sure it's in good repair, is not only great for helping ensure that your instrument keeps its value over its lifetime, but it also makes sure that you enjoy playing it. When we start to get damage to the instrument that affects the sound, it makes it more difficult to play and less enjoyable. So the first thing that we're going to talk about is generally how you take care of your bow. Your bow is actually what makes the sound on the instrument, so keeping your bow in good shape also makes it easier and more enjoyable to play. So always leave your bow in a nice safe place when you're not playing with it. If you leave it on a table or something, make sure that table, it's not going to fall off of that. Make sure not to drop the bow or hit it against things, as that will cause weak points in the bow and cause it to snap. When putting your bow away, make sure to put it in tip first. Most cases have kind of a soft cover to keep that tip safe, and the tip is the most sensitive, most fragile part of the bow. Your bow has either synthetic horsehair or actual horsehair on it, and that hair is very elastic, and there's some things that we have to watch out for with that horsehair. So when you're not playing with your bow, you want to make sure that you loosen your bow, and this keeps extra stress and strain from that hair. It keeps them from snapping, and you also want to make sure not to over loosen your bow when you're putting it away. Over loosening is getting the hair to a point where it's actually flopping around a little, and those really loose hairs will actually catch on things more easily and snap more often. So make sure also not to over loosen it when putting it away. When you're playing with your bow, you want to tighten it. You don't want to over tighten it necessarily, as it both causes warping and puts extra stress on the hair. And so over tightening is when you get the hair so tight that it'll actually start to bow outwards instead of the natural shape of the bow, which is actually to bow inwards. So you've got on the outsides of the bow a fat section, and in the middle a skinnier section. And this will always be the case no matter how tight you make your bow. As soon as you start to get a fat section in the middle of the bow, that means we've over tightened the bow. Horsehair is very sensitive, and we don't want to touch the hair, as that will leave behind oils which will collect dust and dirt and other things. That makes it so that the rosin that we rosin up the bow with will not stick to the hair of that any longer, and will make it much more difficult to play. When dealing with rosin, we do want to rosin up our bow every so often, and the rosin is crucial to getting a good sound on your bow. If we don't have enough rosin, then it's either not going to make any sound at all, or just a very poor quality of sound. So to rosin up your bow, you're going to tighten up your bow and take it in your right hand, just as if you were about to play with it, a nice bow hold on that, and put firm pressure on the rosin with that bow. The bow should be rosined about after every hour of playing or so. Or if you start to notice that it's sliding around or skating on the string, then that probably means that there's not enough rosin on that. If you don't have enough rosin, it makes it much more difficult to play on your instrument. Now, rosin isn't necessarily too expensive, but you do want to take care of your cake of rosin for a couple different reasons. So rosin is very fragile, and so we want to avoid dropping it, and it's just a mess to clean up as soon as you start to get little chips of rosin all around. You also want to be careful not to over rosin your bow, as this can give kind of a gritty and unpleasant sound. More rosin is preferable to too little rosin, but as soon as you start to see a sort of a cloud coming off of your bow when you're playing with it, that means you've got too much rosin. Now, as general care for your violin, viola, cello, and bass, your instrument is made out of wood, and because of that, you'll want to avoid extreme weather conditions such as extreme cold, extreme heat, extreme dry conditions, extreme humid conditions, as these will cause problems with the wood. They can reshape, and they can cause cracks and other things to happen that either are expensive to repair or might not be repairable. So make sure and avoid leaving it out in the heat for a long period of time, or the cold. Especially the big culprit of this is in a trunk or in the backseat of a car, as that'll leave it exposed to the elements for a long period of time. Make sure also to carefully take your instrument out of and put it back into the case when you're done with it, as if we don't, we can sometimes get scratches and chips and cracking and so forth that can both make it look a little less pretty, but also cause sound problems with the instrument. Another thing to watch out for with the instrument is we don't want to get wood on there, as that can affect the varnish and leave stains and whatnot. And Other things to watch out for: avoid jostling or bumping the instrument, as this can shift things like the bridge and the sounding post, and just really make it not as pleasant to play on. If you've got a bridge out of place, it really affects fingerings, and if you've got a sounding post out of place, it can not only make it hard to play on that instrument as it reduces the overall sound of it, the overall tone quality, but it can also cause damage, as that sounding post inside of there is meant to help support the instrument, so it can actually cause cracks and other things to happen. Avoid at the very beginning with your instrument using the pegs and the fine tuners unless you're really sure you know how to use them, as it's easy to break strings, and breaking a string to get that replaced can cost you $20 to $100 depending on the string and the instrument. With your strings, you want to avoid bumping or scratching them, as that metal is stretched out over such a high tension that it'll cause nicks and cuts to develop, which over time will start to tear through the string. And that's also an instance in which you need to replace a string, is when you have that happening. Occasionally, you do want to clean off the rosin from your strings with a nice soft cotton cloth. This ensures that the sound quality of the string stays good. It's kind of like if I put my hand on a bell and try and ring that bell's not going to sound as well. And rosin acts just like your hand on a bell, that it'll keep that string from vibrating quite as well as it would if we didn't have as much rosin. When cleaning your instrument, especially when you put it away, you do want a nice soft cotton cloth to just clean that rosin off the wood, as that can also cause some cosmetic things over time, make it look less nice. And if you do want to clean fingerprints off of your instrument, use a nice soft cotton cloth for that again. Another thing to watch out for is not setting your instrument down on its face, as this damages the strings and puts undue pressure on the bridge and can cause all kinds of problems. This is the end of the first video of this. Shortly, there's also another video that should be up on YouTube soon that talks about specifics of violin, viola, and cello and bass, and also the last item, which is taking care of your case.